Hey guys, Prof here. We're down in the basement just because I got some decent lighting. If I'm squinting, that's why I'm looking at three lights of the brightest ones they allow. I've been planning on making this video for a couple days, just with work having gotten to it. I did pick up the new Corsair wireless mouse, Dark Core RGB, I think. I didn't get the wireless charging one. I just picked it up at the local Best Buy. Was interested in the shape, especially with the dual wing design. We don't see that very often. I got it behind me on the table here, along with, or it's actually on top of Chibi PC there, and we're gonna take a quick look at that. Chibi PC here. We have the new Corsair. I think it's the Dark Core RGB. Yeah, there's no model number, which I prefer to just have a number for stuff like this, or like M560 Dark Core. You really don't need RGB in the name. Everything has it. That Intertech logo was interesting to me because it's almost as big as the Corsair, so I have to wonder if they're making it. You could probably find that off of the one of the codes up here because it'll show the OEM. I really don't care that you're gonna see my serial number either, because this is going back. That's probably not a great start to the video, but we'll show you why in a second here. All right, the biggest thing that I liked about this was I have the optional right side grip on there. I do like to support my fingers if I can. I like a slippery mouse pad. If I could find a hard mouse pad big enough, I would go with that. I may have to make one. I have in the past. The original side is right here. Or it goes technically this way. Like that, instead of the wing on the side. I do prefer the wing because it gives you a little bit of support. The reason why I picked this up is it really reminded me of the G602, and I just like that shape. The biggest issue with this mouse isn't the wireless, which I have seen a couple bad like reviews online about on Best Buy's website, as well as others. It is that side right there. Do you see those arrows? Those are actually your back and forward buttons. There is nigh on zero tactility to them. The sniper button here, actually pretty good. If they would have just put two of those side by side, it would have been acceptable. But I use back and forward. So say in Call of Duty or Battlefield, usually forward is melee, back is grenade, to throw a grenade. And you need to hold it to cook it or something like that. There's no way to do this. It is just awful. Like, this might be passable on a, like, say a browsing mouse, like for browsing the web, because if you can just bump them and use them. But on a mouse that is like a gaming mouse, that's just horrible. Whereas this sniper button's good. If they would have just put one here and then one there and just two side buttons, it would have been perfectly fine. Oh, by the way, we do have a cat here. Gertrude is trying to help. Since I'm downstairs, and that's kind of her domain. She's been climbing all over the chair in my back. So we got some more cat help like usual. The other issue is it does seem back heavy. Let's drop this down a little bit. So when you pick this up, the back, like, it's definitely back, like, butt heavy. I don't know if that's where the battery is or what, but it's very annoying that it's like that. The other thing is because these buttons take up your whole side, there is no place to actually grip with your thumb. Normally, you would put the buttons up top here. Like, say you move this up a little bit, your buttons would be up here, and you would grip below the buttons. You can't, because it's all button. Like, you have to grip the button to pick it up. The other issue comes in, no matter what side you have, this side, there would normally be a bit of an overhang. And you could lift it with it. There kind of is. Let's see here. See? You got a little bit of an overhang there. Not much, but the biggest issue ends up being that this is this soft touch plastic. I don't know if you can see that, but it's very, very, very smooth. So you get no grip. And because it's butt heavy, it just slips right out of your hand. So it's just an ergonomic nightmare. Besides that, for me at least, the mouse, like besides this back piece with this rubber, which actually reminds me once again of the G602, it feels cheap, like cheap plastic. The scroll wheel is loose side to side, and it, like, even when you use it, it's loose sounding. It's like not a consistent feel to it. It's scrolling up and down. I did try to play, because I've mostly been playing Call of Duty, and I use this for weapon switches. Scroll down, and weapon switch up is melee, or switch to melee, and it would just not always do that. Like, I just flick it, and normally it should switch. It does not do that. Another downside of this mouse. They could even done without these buttons. To the left of your left click here, so left click this side, these buttons right here, they're pushed down, and they're right here. So if I put my hand on it, a little bit of an angle here, and I push this, anytime you click the front one, which is the only one easy to access, since it's flush with your main click, you click your main click, unless you go way over to the side, but then you have to shift your hand. Like, then your middle finger's on the middle click when you click that. Also, you feel like you're slipping off of it every time you press it. What they should have done is raised it, like it slopes down to the left, or in this picture, down to the right. Down to the left when you're looking at it from the butt side of the mouse. They should have sloped it up to the left, or in this picture, up to the right. If you've seen how the G502, as much as the people don't like those buttons on there, they did make them much bigger and much easier to click compared to the G602. This looks like it's pulled exactly from the G602, which is a much worse implementation of it. That way, when you push down, you can push out, and it pushes it down. So one quick thing to mention really with this is you still have the Corsair software. I have hated it ever since they switched it from the real old M40, M45 to their newer stuff that, frankly, is way too complex to do just about nothing. And even just, like, say I wanted to bind that sniper button to back, you have to create an entire action and then apply that action to the button, instead of normally in most you just click the button, and then you want to change action, mouse action, done. Or there might just be a quick drop down for the basic functions, and anything else you have to go into a menu for. But you have to create an entire action just for a key rebind, which you shouldn't have to create an action unless you're doing a huge macro or something. Like, that seems pointless. Like, Logitech and Razer both have even the ability to do quick keyboard shortcuts just by quick, like Control Shift. Like Control Shift N is one I use all the time, which is new. Sometimes I bind that if I have an extra mouse button on there, so I don't have to use it on the keyboard. Bam, new folder, new folder, new folder. I would have to do something even more complex just to change the function of a button. And when it comes to performance, I guess the only issue I've had and experienced is when coming out of sleep mode. It is super laggy. But once it's out, I haven't had any issues. So I haven't experienced like lag during gameplay, but I haven't used it much because the side buttons make it unusable for gaming for me, and it's butt heavy. And I do pick up my mouse. I game at 800 DPI, so depending if I do a big swipe, I usually have to pick it up and recenter, even on my Gigantus mouse pad, and it just kind of slips out of your hand backwards and is rather awkward. Corsair kind of, with most of their mice, always have some sort of an issue, but this one, like, it's like nobody actually used it or looked into it. It seems like a OEM mouse that they rebranded that may not even been meant for gaming. The shape is nice, and that little back piece, but nothing else from what I can tell. Especially for the price, you have better options. This one's going back. Normally I don't take things back. To be truthful, if it was half decent, not amazing, you wouldn't even be seeing a quick review out of me. But since it's like this bad, I just thought I'd do a quick video, and before I took it back, You guys probably won't even get decent pictures out of me since it's got to go back in time for the return policy. Well, see you on the next one. Alright guys, so I know I said I would see you in the next one, but turns out that there's a bit more of a follow-up to this story. I eventually went in and returned it at Best Buy since I was just unhappy with the mouse. And it turns out that they notified me because I was mentioning some of the connection issues, that there was actually a firmware update available and they had gotten a notice there about it. I don't know if the Dark Core RGB specifically launched exclusive at Best Buy. It may have. But they had actually gotten like a notice to the store about those potentially having issues, and that they should tell customers that a firmware update had fixed it. And I'm like, well, there's other things I am not happy about with the mouse, and still wanted to return it. And they said, yep, there's no reason they couldn't do that because I was within return policy. So just something, a heads up on that. And then later, I actually went to Corsair's website here because I was doing RMAs for RAM and a RMA for Preston or Frozen Slate's. His H110i died. We don't know what part of it. It wasn't the pump like the H100 or leaking like the other H100. It just died. The pump was still reading as pumping, but his CPU kept overheating. So I was on here and literally look, if you can see on the page here, and I'll blow this up in a second, the first thing on there, like top of the page, is messages and alerts, Dark Core RGB firmware update. So it looks like it needs a day one, or I had it day one. I didn't know about this originally, but first week at least firmware update. And that's supposed to resolve the connection issues that people were happening. Let me bring this up here. I got a nice big copy here. All right, so like, yeah, Dark Core RGB firmware update. So you've got yourself Dark Core RGB or Dark Core RGB SE, Corsair's first wireless mouse. Well, you could use this mouse right out of the box. We recommend downloading the latest version of Q and updating the mouse's firmware for best experience. Now, I never got to try this and see if it resolved it. But I definitely had connection issues, especially when coming out of, like when you just set the mouse there and it would go to sleep. Coming out of that mode, it would be very kind of like derpy for a while. And then eventually once it came out, it would be fine. Maybe this resolves it. I heard a bunch of other people, and if you read the comments on Best Buy's website, which I did do once they told me about the firmware issue, and that they were told to mention it to people if that was the indeed what they were complaining about. I went and looked at it, and a lot of the Best Buy comments were talking about connection issues. So that's pretty big to kind of launch your first wireless mouse with bad enough firmware issue that you have to tell the retailer, I guess, in my opinion, especially on day one. You would think they would have caught that before shipping them. But this, to me, still kind of points to them not making it themselves, or picking a base design from somebody else and like revamping it. So I really still can't recommend it. You guys just saw the video. This is coming a bit later since I'm recording it when I'm editing the video, as sort of a follow-up for you. And as always, guys, if you like my videos, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. Throw a like on it if you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more stuff like this, stay tuned. I'll be, I upload mouse reviews and stuff like that fairly regularly on this channel, since it is one of my more larger, peripheral. I like peripherals. Mice are one of them, since there's a lot to them. It's not just like your normal computer hardware. Since there's a lot of preference involved and like how you feel about it. So if you like that sort of stuff, please subscribe. You can also follow me over on @theprophecist on Twitter and @TechExchange as well for the website and channel. And the website, as always, is the-tech-exchange.com. If there's any other questions you have specifically about this mouse or other mice in general, you can hit me up in the comments here or any of those places, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as I can. See you in the next one. Hopefully you guys found this more interesting than Gertrude here. If you did, like, subscribe, and even comment below and tell me your thoughts on this mouse.